Thanks everyone for being here tonight. I'm so honored. My name is Darrell Watson. I'm the City Council member for all of the fine District 9. We are in Park Hill at the House of Hair with Marcus Pope, the owner of the House of Hair, to have a community discussion about Black wealth, Black impact, and to look back at the last 100 days within Denver City Council and the administration, and how did we do? What did we bring forward that's going to help support our Black community? What things we need to do to continue moving forward on the agendas that I ran on over the last year and a half, and things that community members are looking for. We have a lot of folks here tonight. I'm not going to introduce everyone, but I wanted to really start off with Speaker Carroll, who's here. I think it's, I respect so much, sir, your service, continued service, all that you've done for these neighborhoods and for the district that we're in Park Hill especially. I'm very curious from your perspective, your thoughts on a high level of the first 100 days for this administration, for this city council. What did you see and hear about what we accomplished, didn't accomplish, and kind of what are your thoughts as to where we should be going?
First of all, thank you for having me, Councilman. This is a great idea, and I think it'll be a great service to the community to continue doing these things. And if I had hair, I would be coming here to get my hair cut now. But you know, those days are long. Those days are long past. I could get a shave. I think the mayor and the city council overall have done a great job in the midst of some trying circumstances, especially with the unhoused situation in this city and county of Denver. It's a trying thing, and there are no easy answers, and it's a thing where everybody wants an easy answer. And somebody once said, for every problem there's a simple solution, and that's the problem. Mm-hmm. And there's no simple solution to this, but I admire that the council and the mayor keep working together to try to figure out some workable solution to probably the most vexing problem the city's faced in the some 30-some years that I've lived in Denver. I think it's a difficult thing. And then the other part that's the city council and the mayor, I think, are paying attention to that, and they should be paying attention to, is revitalizing downtown and trying to make sure that as we recover from the pandemic, continue to recover from the pandemic, that we make downtown a vibrant place for people to go to. And then thirdly, it goes back to neighborhoods in the city broadly. What do we do to make sure that all of our neighborhoods are vibrant? That a place like Park Hill, all of Park Hill, not just South Park Hill, but North Park Hill, are revitalized and continue to be vibrant places. I feel like I'm a Johnston campaign ad using the word vibrant. I'm not meaning to use the word vibrant. It just happens to be a very good word to use.
You can just say fine District 9 because that's mine.
Okay, we'll just say fine District 9. And as someone who, when I was in the legislature as a state representative and Speaker of the House, I represented most of Northeast Denver, including Park Hill, Montbello, Green Valley Ranch, Montclair, Mayfair, Crestmore, back when they were still included in my old House district. It's important that we not forget that as we go through these transitions over the first 100 days with new leadership and brand new council, that we don't forget that Denver is a city of neighborhoods, and that any revitalization, any strengthening of this city has to include all of our neighborhoods and not just those with the loudest bullhorn, but those who don't have a bullhorn or can't afford to have a bullhorn. And that's one of the things I really appreciate about you and this current council is that there's a deliberate effort to make sure that all the neighborhoods are heard and not just lip service, but it's real transparent communication.
Thank you so much, Speaker Carroll. And I know you talked about revitalization and really making sure we're lifting up community. I wanted to make sure that we also talk specific to the Black community. And we have my brother Haroon Cohen here from 5 Points Bid. And Haroon, I'm curious from your perspective, as you look at all of the many things that are impacting our communities, that are impacting specifically the Welton Street corridor that your bid is leading, the Business Improvement District is leading. What thoughts do you have about the first 100 days that you've seen? What are you thinking about the next 100 days? What should we be focusing on to ensure we're not leaving our people behind?
I think in short, one, I'm just happy that from the mayor's office, and especially you, Councilman, is that they've been listening. right? There's been a lot of challenges in the corridor. And first is you've listened prior to being the council person, being in that neighborhood. And so really engaging with with your ear first and being able to hear some of the issues, the problems, but then also coming with some solutions. And so for us, from the 5 Points bids and neighborhoods such as Park Hill, you have to have some representation that one hears from the people, not just rush to an answer. And so from the first 100 days, it's just really having your ear, but then also listening to some solutions and mobilizing those solutions quickly. I know even for our bid, we had some challenges getting people elected back to the bid board, and that's operational. I thank him for expediting that process. And so it's wonderful to work with a council person that really hears, understands also the grassroots, because grassroots businesses are a part of the fabric of these neighborhoods. And so it's very hard. It's been very hard over the last 3 years, coming out of COVID, also coming out of some disruption in those neighborhoods, and really being able to say, hey, here's what we can do immediately, and here's where we're looking at in the next 100 days. And so for us, it's really now mobilizing on our part some of the other collective voices and being able to strategically be a orchestrated voice rather than a cacophony, because we've had so many voices saying, here's what the problem is. Now we've distilled some of the greater issues and working on them first as we get to some of the other things that are acutely aware to some of the other businesses as a whole. So we're thankful, we're grateful for the first 100 days, and we look forward to also the next 100 days in the engagement process, and not only listening but engaging, mobilizing. And from the 5 Points bid, we're hiring our first executive director. We had a board, and so what I wanted to do is make sure we have a face now to represent the bid, because it's one thing for the volunteer board to say we represent, but on a day-to-day basis, it needs a face. It needs somebody with arms and legs that are there every day to understand the nuances of why there's displacement, why there is safety issues, and being able to not only come to me, but come to that person directly. And so now that person will also steward some of the other committees. And so, but I'm happy to be here, sitting in this seat and seeing some of the same traction here in Park Hill. And of course, they're here now, seeing this business owner who also helps me with my hair.
I was on with our hair.
So it's been a blessing. So I'm grateful to be among the audience here.
I'm going to ask one more question, and then I got some question from Marcus Pope and his team, and this a kind of small business focus. But I was mad as hell, Haroon, when Welton Street started struggling, and when Coffee to Point closed. I need to go into all of the drama behind some of the whys, but from your perspective and from your leadership on the bid, when are we going to see Welton Street reopen cafe, and what's going to happen to Coffee to Point spot? Are we getting another coffee shop down there? I think those are bigger than just businesses. I know there are a ton of businesses on the point, but those were institutions. Those were staples. When you came down to Welton Street, you went and you got something at Coffee to Point, and you went and got some smothered pork chops at Welton Street Cafe. Talk to me about what you see as one of the leaders on the bid with those two institutions, or some similar when it comes to Coffee to Point, because who knows if that's going to happen again. Yeah.
I think the big thing is, as you come down Welton Street, we need daytime activity, and the coffee shop was the daytime activity, right? We can't just have nighttime activity where we just have bars. And so we need a replacement for that space where it is daytime activity, where it is serving people during the day. I remember I was coming from downtown, and the guy was like, hey, I heard about 5 Points, and I couldn't point to multiple businesses that were there during the day. So I think, to your point, we're looking to recruit some more daytime businesses there. Secondly, I think Welton Street Cafe, I was just touring Welton Street Cafe's new space, and luckily it has been having some movement. So I hear that it could be opening anywhere between December and January. And I'd be very happy when it opens. I mean, there's 2 spots that I go to, and one of them is Welton Street Cafe. And so for them to be a staple, been there since '99, that family being in the community since in the last 34 years, I think is very important if we're talking about preservation of culture, or preserving those businesses that also reflect that. And so I'm happy. I mean, they've struggled through a lot of challenges, but we see the perseverance spirit, and so I'm happy to see that I was touring with Fatima, who's been
That's good.
been the face of the business and the voice of the business, and so it's just good to see that probably in the next 60 days, 70 days, that they'll be reopened and it'll be a place where people to engage. And so that would be great for that business to be open, but we're really looking for some retaining, but we're also looking to recruit some more businesses to the corridor. We just had 2 more close, and so we just need some businesses that are going to stay over the long term. And so we're finding every opportunity to recruit some folks that are going to be there for the long term. And how do we create an environment? I think the big thing is, without getting into the details, is how we create environments that foster better outcomes for businesses, right? We can't do the business for the business owner, but we can help foster the best environment so that there's better outcomes. And so that's what we're looking to do from the bid perspective, is create the best ingredients so that the business owners can do what they do, and we can create the environment that fosters a better outcome for them.
That's great, Haroon, and I'm going to share a little bit later about the Department of Economic Development and Opportunity and things that they are doing in businesses. But we wouldn't be having this barbershop talk tonight if it wasn't for Brother Marcus Pope here. I mean, this was your idea as you were cutting my hair about 60 days ago. We talked about having a discussion that's just organic. None of this is scripted, about how we can support, as far as elected officials and community, small businesses. And I'm wondering, Marcus, if you can share a little bit about your journey here with House of Hair, kind of this convening space now in Park Hill on this corner. What does that mean, and how can we as a city continue supporting you and the folks who work here and the folks who come here to be a part of this community for the long term?
Yeah, well, again, I appreciate Councilman Watson, I think Haroon said it, your attentiveness to listen to small business owners for this to be able to be carried out. So we talked about it, we mentioned it once or twice, and you brought some legwork to bring this to fruition. So I appreciate the just giving a voice and giving room for a voice for small businesses and ownership within the community. And we've been here at this location for about 10 years. It'll be 10 years in January.
All right, it's a blessing.
Been in business total 20.
Yeah.
But we also encountered displacement prior to those 10 years. I got to this spot, to this space we're at, on 28th Avenue in Fairfax, because of displacement. Yep. And knowing what that felt like, knowing how that block changed and how that neighborhood changed and shifted, and how it was once an inviting, inclusive, thriving business strip that represented various households and various businesses, strong black prominence of enterprise. Those numbers soon dwindled. The neighborhood dwindled. The representation in the neighborhood dwindled. And then we were no longer welcome to renew our lease at that location. And so we were fortunate to still land a spot in the same zip code. Not a lot of businesses can do that. That came from relationships that I had for a number of years with a particular family that owns property in this area. I was just fortunate to have that relationship. So it's a privilege to still be in the neighborhood, and we still continue to see changes. Some changes are in the name of progression. Some changes do bring concern to both us as business owners and even for the residents. But nevertheless, I think it does start somewhere. It does start with conversation. It does start with questions being asked. And then hopefully there's a point of navigation towards some form of resources and further advocacy, active advocacy, for us to be able to not just to maintain, but to sustain, scale, and thrive in small pockets like this in Park Hill. I'm hopeful. I remain hopeful. But I know that we have a unique challenge against us as an economy, both locally and nationally. And I feel that unique pockets of business in these neighborhoods like this, we're not in a prominent business district.
Correct.
And so we have unique, Andrew can attest to this, we have unique challenges just with mere visibility. Unless you're in the neighborhood, you may not even know we're in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And so we as business owners are looking for further support, advocacy, and creativity to just give us that insulation or that environment as Roon's talking about, to help us to thrive and to be a legacy business 10, 20 years down the road.
And is there anything specific you're thinking from a city? And I can share as a council person some of the work that we're doing with the Department of Economic Development and Opportunity to really make sure that we're targeting businesses like yours, businesses like Andrew's, to make sure they survive in these pockets. But is there anything that you're saying, hey, I'm hitting my head against the wall when it comes to getting access to capital, or I'm not receiving any benefits from the city when it comes to helping with advertising or expanding my reach to community? Are there any things that you're thinking as a business owner, and I'll ask Andrew the same, that you're like, I don't know if the city can do this, but it would be good if it could. That would be, love to maybe to lean into that.
For sure. I think there is somewhat of a disconnect that a lot of business owners within this district have with the city. I hear of certain programs, certain grants, certain funding sources that may be out there but may not be out there. So I think there's a larger disconnect of kind of ambiguous language on what really is available for us, what is specific to certain districts, certain zip code. And there's a lot of unknown and uncertain information out there. How can we access that for clarity, to really affirm whether or not that is something attainable for a business in this district? So I think that, those are some of the things that specifically we hear of programming, we hear of grants, but specifically, how do we access that information on what is actual and what is just a thought, or what is a projection for 5 years from now?
Yep. I'll share one quick thing for the folks who are viewing and folks in the audience here. I think one of the tough things with how, and I'm just going to say DITO because I ain't going to say that whole acronym, spell it out every time, but DITO does some great work within the city. A lot of their grants and their ability to provide funds are tied to what they call nest neighborhoods. And so those are neighborhoods identified as needing equity and stability. So it's targeted to nest neighborhoods. But the funky thing about that is that a lot of our communities aren't available because they've already been gentrified. We've already been displaced. So we're not struggling with the income levels that we were because we don't live there anymore. We're gone. We're in Aurora. We're somewhere else. So like even the Wells Street Corridor is not a nest neighborhood. So some of the nest funding and the grants that we can, it's not part of a nest neighborhood in 5 Points because the income level for 5 Points includes Curtis Park, includes the River North Art District, includes parts of San Rafael, where folks' income is well above where they are in Westwood or somewhere out on the west side. But still, the institutionalized businesses, like House of Hair, I mean, you got booted out of City Park West. Y'all been there for, you said 30 years, but you couldn't hold on there because City Park West obviously is not a nest neighborhood. The median income there is well above what the city grants provide. And so what we've been talking about in District 9 is with the city is not only looking at these neighborhood for equity and stability, but looking at legacy businesses that we need. When we look at what Denver is and what we want Denver to be, if we're in a gentrified neighborhood that is now uber upper middle class or whatever you want to equate it to, but we have legacy businesses, there has to be carve-outs for those businesses that if they're gone and you look around Denver, Denver isn't Denver anymore without these businesses. And so Nest is a good target, but there's got to be other targets. And so we are in deep discussions with their team. I'm excited that Adib Khan just came on to the administration, and he's going to be helping guiding some of these discussions. And folks who may not know Adib, he has a deep background, not just in business, not just in finance, but also in nonprofits. He's led foundations and nonprofits that really focus on making sure he's uplifting people. His family story is something that folks are going to be, drawn to him as someone who's leading the economic health of this city, along with the mayor and the rest of the administration. So I think some of that stuff, Marcus, that you're talking about, the grants that aren't available to you and others in these communities where you're an institution, but you can't touch it because of where you live. I think Adib Khan is going to, and I'm not going to put words in his mouth, he's only been there for a week, and I'm saying this on camera, so Adib Khan is going to say yes. I know I'm going to say yes, and I'm going to work with him to get to yes, that we look for different triggers to make sure that those things work. And I know Haroon Cohen and others are looking at incubators within the Weldon Street corridor and stuff to help with filling out those applications, which are really difficult at times. And so having incubators that are organic and within the community, folks that you trust, working with you to get those filled out. So part and parcel, making sure the grants spread beyond simply nest neighborhoods to really legacy, and being really focused on increasing legacy dollars to businesses like yours. And then also making sure we have incubators throughout District 9 where you have professional accountants, lawyers, all of the folks who you're going to need to help with your grant writing to actually help you complete those grant applications and work so you can be sustained.
Can I just jump in here real quick? You raised an interesting point that's also related to gentrification and housing. So I think you're going to talk about that at some point. Yeah. Part of what's driven gentrification and displacement in the city is that folks who have lived in Park Hill forever, especially black communities, black folks have lived in Park Hill forever and ever and a day, and 5 Points forever and ever and a day. As those neighborhoods become gentrified, how we define gentrification, long-term families can't stay there because the property taxes continue to increase and they can't keep up with the property taxes. The legislature goes back for a special session this week. During this taping, I look at the camera, legislature goes back in, and I hope that as they talk about property tax relief, that they look at it from an equitable perspective, because across the board, it doesn't matter if folks are most harmed by gentrification, and gentrification is a result of the fact that they have to sell their property, the family can't keep it. We got to address that. We did it with the old age pension fund, or not old age pension, the old age property tax program. We probably need to do something very similar in some of our neighborhoods like Globeville, Elyria, Swansea, parts of Park Hill, 5 Points, Sunnyside, to ensure that as the city grows economically, that folks aren't left behind. And I just hope the legislature takes time to really think deeply about that and not just go for the easy fix.
Mm-hmm. And that's a tough discussion, and I think City Council is going to be engaged deeply as much as we can with the property tax piece. And one of the things I think is important, and I think most folks in the room here will agree, is that making sure our elders, so when you're talking about property tax and property increases, that we actually have a graduated look at taxing. So we don't just put it across the board. So elders who are on stable income right now, they're only getting Social Security and they're living off of whatever small amount that they have, that increase in property taxes, if it's not a gradual or graduated based on, with some carve-outs for seniors, that's going to be a harm on top of the increase in trash fees, on top of the increase in sidewalks. All of those things are going to add up. And so we've been clear, we're going to have folks from the administration, our administration, speaking with folks in the legislature and coming back and briefing council on the Homestead Act and a whole host of things that provides carve-outs for our families. And I know for sure in District 9, we're going to make sure that since Prop HH failed, whatever comes forward is scaled to last, and it allows for relief for folks who are struggling and wanting to live in the communities that they love. And I'm wondering, David, if you want to introduce yourself and maybe share a little bit, because as we go into housing, this is where you live. This is the work that you do, and I think it'll be good for folks to get to know who you are.
Yes, absolutely. No, thank you for this opportunity to come in and speak with you. I'm David Ogonsanya. I'm the VP of Real Estate for Elevation Community Land Trust. And it's funny, Marcus said that, a lot of people don't know that this shop is here, because I've been to like the playground with my daughter across the street. I mean, I haven't cut my hair in like 5 years. I was in a barbershop in like 5 years. I just do it at home. So yeah, like it's, and like these are the type of businesses we need to support. Yeah. So I'm really happy this is happening here. So at Elevation, I'm the VP of Real Estate. So my primary responsibility is acquisition and development of affordable for sale housing. That's something that we have a huge shortage of here in the city. because there's a ton of rentals, whether it's light tech, market rate, luxury, every
Hey,
crane.
cut the acronyms. What's light tech?
Low income housing tax credits.
All right.
So a lot of the cranes that you see are mostly rental units that are delivering. And we have one of the very few 100% affordable condos that have been built at the Burrell in Five Points.
Yes.
Rhino, if you want to call it that.
No, we don't. No.
At 5 points. There it is. So that's our primary focus, and we're statewide. So we're doing it in Denver, in Aurora, Delta, Colorado, Durango, Fort Collins. We have about 100 units delivering in Fort Collins in the next 3 months, which is townhomes, duplexes, and single-family homes. So we're really putting forth the effort to make Colorado more affordable for families. And Tiana is my colleague, and she works with our home buyer population. So I'll let her talk about what we do with trying to get a market affordable home ownership for Black families, so that they can realize this is an opportunity for them. But on my end, what I
Sorry, my eyes watering. It's always allergies. The answer is always allergies.
But on my end, since I focus on the development side of things, my primary focus is to create an avenue where we can work with Black developers. And also cultivate Black developers. I look at all the projects that are happening in Denver, in the Denver Metro, and none of those projects are with Black developers.
Is there a directory? Does the MWBE, the WBE, the minority business certifications throughout the city, do they have a listing of Black developers or something?
I mean,
Haroon is kind of smirking over there. So I don't think-
Haroon knows the answers. Like they're really Like there's really no. I mean, I wouldn't even say prominent, like startup Black developer. Like and for me, there's a difference between a house flipper and like someone that's developed. Yeah, like I'm talking about like this is a primary business, quality work, not just quick flips and all that, which is great, make your money however you want to. But when we're talking about being active in the development space, we're like trying to help startup Black developers. So since I would say 2019, 2020, one thing we've been doing at Elevation is creating the opportunity to identify and support startup Black developers, right? We understand the barriers to entry, capital, experience, the whole bucket list. Like we know all of that. But what we know that we have is we have the reputational equity, we have the experience, we have the resources, and we can bring partners to the table to get projects done.
How do folks get to you then, David? If someone
you know,
viewing this, because we have thousands, it's going to break the internet.
Don't blow up my email.
Okay, yeah. But how do folks get a hold of you?
Well, if you Google affordable housing in Denver, we come up.
Okay.
But you can go to Elevation Community Land Trust. What's that website? elevationclt.org.
Okay. And what I'm going to do also in this video, for any of the folks who are leading programs process, we'll add your information in this video. We got you, so folks can know how to find you after this.
And what I also do is, because I talk to a lot of developer partners, and we talk about our equity focus, and we want developers to partner with Black GCs, Black contractors, or other Black developers, or architects, or other trades. And the feedback we always get is we don't know them, we don't know where they are, But if you're never in the spaces where those people are, you're not going to find them, right?
Okay.
So, I go to those places, right?
Okay.
And through my networks, I've met, right now, I think we have about 8 to 10 potential Black developers that we're working with, male and female. Haroon might know some of them. We've been having conversations with Gilmore Construction, who's a prominent Black GC company here, because, we would love to partner with them. So, going to NAACP and Urban League meetings, and just talking about that we're intentionally trying to partner and support folks. And we know it's not just like the conversation.
Yeah.
It's like the work behind it. So on the other side of that,
Well, I gave up the mic to an articulate brother, and you're going to be talking all night. So,
No, I just got like 2 minutes.
Okay, 2 more minutes.
2 more minutes.
Tiana's got a point, and then we're going to be coming back around in circles.
absolutely.
So they'll be taking over.
No, I have an internal
This is
clock.
the
Trust
most
me.
I've heard of it.
I don't talk a lot. But on the other side of that, we know that, okay, we just don't want to throw folks out there, right?
That's right.
So what we're also doing is creating an ecosystem of success where we have a black developer that we're partnering with, or BIPOC developer, or Latino, or whomever. But we're also supporting them with a black GC, or Latino GC, or black architect, so that we know collectively this project is going to succeed.
Yeah.
So that, we eliminate that, this is why we don't loan to black developers because their projects never get off the ground. No, when we come to the table with you, we know that you have a project that's going to succeed, so we're going to get it done. So just trying to eliminate all the barriers, all the excuses that we hear from all the lenders. So those are some of the things that we're
Well, definitely
doing.
want to partner with you, and also looking at city-owned property,
Yes.
as we're looking at encouraging RTD or DPS, whoever owns big plots of land just sitting, for the work that you're doing to make sure we can elevate you all as part of those discussions, so they know there is a wider spectrum of folks who can actually develop these properties.
And Host has been great. Host has been
That's good.
a wonderful partner. I know you all just approved our a bunch of money for us like 2 months
Don't be
ago.
talking about what I do. Let them research my website and see what I do.
So I appreciate that.
You're
allows
welcome,
us to do
my brother.
more work. So.
You're welcome. You earned it. I didn't give you none. You earned it. But Tiana, did you want to add anything on kind of really your targeted approach on equity when it comes to identifying, supporting folks that want to build wealth in our community?
Yeah, absolutely. And if you want to start a timer to.
I'll give you 5 minutes. 5:11.
As David said, I'm Tiana Patterson. I am the VP of Social Impact and Wealth Equity.
You got a good title.
Incredibly long title. And so with that, I do have the privilege of going out and finding the folks who've given up. The folks who've decided that homeownership is no longer available to them. The folks who've had barriers put in front of them on purpose to not access homeownership. And one of the ways that we're working to get to black families especially, near and dear to David and myself, is to bring our application to them. We've been noticing that a lot of folks will start an application and then just drop off the face of the earth. And we don't want that. And so me and my team have decided to start doing application workshops. So I will go do a presentation on elevation, how we work, how the community land trust model works. I'll actually sign certificates that you attended an orientation, which is one of the requirements, just as an extra incentive. And then my team, after I'm done talking, we will go to each person. I'll send out a list of things I suggest you come with if you are ready to get started. And we'll sit down with you for the rest of the time and walk you through the application itself. Because I'm noticing a lot of fear, a lot of hesitation, and I understand why. The interest rates, the model itself has a lot of skepticism with it, but I welcome those questions and I welcome that skepticism, so you can decide if this is something that works for you. Because we don't push this model on anyone, but if this is something that you need. For example, one of the ways I talk about our model is that we are a stepping stone. You can get into a CLT home and then use that to leverage yourself into a market rate home. Or you can stay in a CLT home for forever. You can will it to your children and multiple generations after you. And I think it's been clicking a lot more when I say stepping stone, because one of the other things I really understand is that communities, black communities and communities of color are hearing, why am I getting this different version of homeownership rather than what everybody else is getting? And again, I think it's a valid question, and I think it's a valid concern. But that's why I'm like, think of us as a path to wherever you want to go, as opposed to I'm saying this is where you have to be and this is where you have to stay. And that's really been resonating. Because the path from affordable rentals to market rate home ownership is it's a long one. But we could get you there a little bit quicker. Or maybe you'll get into our homes and be like, this is where I want to be for forever. But the thing is you also have to think about housing differently, rather than thinking of it as I sell my home and then I get all the proceeds and I get this, windfall. You're saying I'm willing to take a bit of the appreciation, and it's worth it for someone else in my same or similar situation to also be able to purchase this home after me. And that's another way.
And that's the beauty of the land trust, is that, I mean, you have some ability to have the appreciation and equity, but you also maintain that for many others who want and need that as well. So when you have the ability to rise up and go wherever else you want to, somebody else who's struggling right now in Denver, like, I can't deal with this rent increase, I need to buy, they can jump into that spot. And so that is where you save, I think, lives and provide access to generational wealth. And that's why I'm such a big fan of land trust. And so I'll share very quickly. My first house I bought in Whittier, bought for $75,000. It wasn't a land trust duplex, but it was a half of a duplex, but it was through CHAFA. And so that's another option. And they provided me the grant for it. I didn't have to pay it back. From that equity, I was able to support other family members to get their first place. And so I was the first out of 7 kids, youngest of 7, to buy their own home. I think we have right now 3 of my siblings own their own homes just from that first piece of equity. And then all of the next generation, we got not one member of the next generation are living in the projects like I grew up in. They all are owning their homes. Their understanding of what life is to buy a condo or something else. It's not to like all of us that we grew up in my family, we're in the projects. Not a one is in it. And so it's that one step. So what you provide is that hope and that opportunity that you can own and you can buy your own place. So I thank you both for that. There are other land trusts that are doing stuff, but I thank you all for being here.
Better known as Sam. Here, I am a barber and an entrepreneur. I did just launch my product line this year, so I'm very proud.
What's your product line? Show it a little bit.
It's Surely Naturals. It's paying homage to my father, who was a barber who passed on. His shop was named Magic Shears. So I figured I would pay homage and still have my own unique twist to it. But I really want to say thank you to, and thank you, and of course thanks to the big man, Pope, because he's the one that spoke into me, letting me know that I was not only a barber, but I was a businesswoman and an entrepreneur. So those words actually planted a seed for Surely Naturals to be where it is right now, and to be on the shelf. So saying that, thank you both, and thank you because in 2020, I got the urge to look for homes. We're on lockdown and I'm just looking. To your point about stepping stone, I love that because that's literally what I thought about. I've heard multiple things as far as, affordable housing and as well as a traditional FHA. And I'm like, well, I don't want to miss out, meaning I'm not too proud, to be able to say, hey, I can take this, even if I only get 8% equity out of this home to go forward into my new forever home. And then I thank you for expressing what you're mentioning about the $75,000 home in Whittier that you purchased, and how your 3 siblings now, correct, your 3 siblings can now have their own home. I originally, I've seen a lot growing up. My father, we can have Rolls Royces, Mercedes, and all of these different things, but they can also wither away. And my father has passed on, my great aunt is gone, the elders of my family are gone, and me and my siblings, we've seen my father open up 5 shops, 3 at one time in Los Angeles. We've seen it, but what do we have for it now that he is gone? Every single one of my siblings have had a home purchased via my father. He showed them, they bought it, none of them have it. My sister, who is currently married, has purchased a house for my mother and her late husband, but for me, I'm not the black sheep, but I am the one who stepped out.
Yep.
I am the one who's been in Colorado for nearly a decade Christmas. So I not only want to purchase for myself, but for my nieces and nephews. I do not want them to see what we have seen. We've seen the fruits and the labor, but it's no longer here. Some of it, yes, maybe to gentrification. Some of it may have been to ignorance.
Yes.
But the fact that you said that even off of that house in Whittier, you have been able to utilize those funds. I personally was like, I can get another home. But I didn't think about using that to help my nieces and nephews, right? And granted, they have to want it. They have to want to attain the information and put in action, because granted, we can talk to people, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. But I think that is awesome that you utilize that money to be able to set up your siblings. So that was very profound for me, because I do think about them, but it's broadening my mindset on how I can attain the generational wealth. So I definitely appreciate you mentioning the stepping stone, because I don't know if it was God himself or just my own, thinking, but I did call, certain, I don't know how, maybe because I was on Zillow, right? And you know how that goes. You can put your information in and they can call you, email. I still get people calling, but you also mentioned being discouraged or people just dropping off. I've definitely been discouraged. And it's probably because by the grace of God, like literally, I've been making it on my own since I was 19, but this is the most I've ever paid for rent for an apartment at 33, I'm sorry. I was in my 20s when I had my first place. But at 33 years old, paying $2,000 for a 2-bed. Granted, it's lovely where I'm at in Aurora. I've always been in Aurora, I've never been in Denver. I'm like, if I'm gonna pay that, I better have a fireplace, I better have this, that, the other, and I do have a wood burning fireplace, but saying that, it's still a lot. I'm not married, I don't have children, and I also just launched a business. So I am now trying to navigate and manage, and I also moved to that apartment to learn how to manage more overhead, to know how to handle a note, a mortgage, you know what I mean? You can't go from 1,000 or 1,100 to $2,000 in a home and expect to know how to manage. So I took a leap of faith on how to figure that out as far as stewardship. But I think it's awesome that you mentioned the stepping stone, because many of us do think about, why can't I get this? Why not take the small and make it great just off of that, So I really appreciate those words, and I definitely will be communicating with you guys once we get done.
Yeah, I was going to say, you should
absolutely
buy an elevation home.
Yeah. Okay? I'm the girl.
And I'm going to tell it to you tomorrow.
It's divine.
We coming now.
I'm so serious, because even with you saying I can come, and I'll wrap it up, I promise, but the fact that you said that you will take the application and walk people through, it's very scary. Interest rates aside, it's very, my friend, she lives right across the street from me, just bought a townhome. Some of the things that she's dealing with as a new homeowner, roofs and chimney leaks and HOAs and what isn't included in an HOA, so I'm kind of learning from her, right? They can say that your roof is included, but if it's a chimney, it may not be included, so you're coming out of pocket, right? So at the end of the day, I really appreciate you guys, and even you, Daryl, just expressing, some of your I won't say concerns, but just giving, your stories and the background of your business. So.
Well, I want some of that commission for that house you just sold. So just give me something.
Well,
Is it a small commission? How we keep it affordable?
No, I was just gonna say, and you can kind of see from like what I said and what Tiana said, that we're very intentional about how we support people, whether you're a developer, a black developer, BIPOC developer, or a black home buyer or Latino home buyer. We understand that sometimes there just needs to be more touch, right?
Yep.
You just need to be there, support someone, and walk them through the process. And also letting them know, like, this is a partnership. Like, you're not just doing this on your own. We're going through this journey together. Tiana will get you to close in.
It's not David. It's me.
I mean, on the developer side,
But we're all.
But like, we're a team.
You're all together.
You might be buying your house, but like, we're a team, so the support is fully there.
Well,
so that's how.
Well, I'll say in our last 10 minutes, I want to make sure. No, Andrew, correct? So share with me your perspective on small businesses. I know we just talked about housing. We had a little touch of small business. You're a small business owner around here. as well.
Yeah.
Share what your thoughts are, expectations from council. What are you seeing, feeling?
Yeah, I mean, so I own M's Ice Cream. We're located right around the corner. You know, ice cream shop, barbershop, I think we're both considered third spaces. So I think, you know, we provide a lot of the character of the neighborhood. And I think in Park Hill, there are a couple of really well-established and really successful business districts within Park Hill. There's
Yeah.
Oneida Park. There's
Kearney.
Kearney, and then that little corridor right off of Dexter with Honey Hill.
Yeah.
But I think those are neighborhoods that are more affluent, more legacy businesses. We're relatively new by comparison, and I don't think we see the foot traffic, although I think we have an equal, if not a superior product. And so I would like to see, you know, like what you were saying with some of these grants for Nest neighborhoods. It's like, you know, we were fortunate enough to be a recipient of one of those grants, and it made a big difference. But it was the money alone, which is great. I mean, we used it for staff, for rent. But if there could have been a promotional component, like, you know, here's a local business, locally owned, it's not a franchise, it employs local kids, like, you know, for most of our staff, like every ice cream shop in the world, it's a lot of like kids, this is their first job. But like we pull from the neighborhood, we try to represent the neighborhood. And so, you know, again, the money was appreciative, very useful, but if there could have been a promotional component to it, like, you know, here's a business that's worth you doing business with. Marcus is in the same boat. It's like, here's a business that's local, owned by someone local, employs people locally, go and support this business.
Yeah.
You know, if there could be more of that, I think that would be really beneficial.
I'm going to look at ways to do that, how we can elevate that. I mean, we've got Visit Denver, we have people in marketing in Denver Downtown Partnership, a whole host of organizations that receive tax dollars to help make sure folks know, love, and live in Denver. I'm going to see through my office, and I think I'm hearing those themes as to how can we leverage the resources within the city to elevate our small businesses, our small communities? How can we use the resources in the city to elevate targeting folks for development for communities that have been, you know, pretty much shut out of development in a city that was leading the country in development for it doesn't exist. Well, the Street Corridor doesn't exist. I think we can do more than one thing at a time. We can do them all, 16th Street Mall and everything else. But I'm also wanting to make sure our focus is broader. And so I want to look around the room, see if folks have any other questions. I want to do a quick transition. It's going to be kind of a sharp turn from business because I don't want this group and this energy to leave without us at least touching on Elijah McClain. I think it's important. That verdict was important in our communities. We have someone here, that Speaker Carol, that can speak a little bit to that. And you can't build wealth, you can't grow a small business if you don't feel safe. And I wanted to at least have a quick hit on Elijah McClain, and then we can one more round of room that we can close out this, what I think has been a really great discussion. So Speaker Carroll, I'm very curious from your perspective, and I know that you've spoken a little bit on some of the news stations around Denver on the McClain verdict and Elijah McClain. What does that say for our community? What does that say about safety within black communities, and what should we learn from this episode?
Okay. Before I answer that, I'm going to give some context as to why people ask me about this, because some people may not know why we're watching. My first job out of college, when I moved up here from Atlanta, I was a police officer for several years. And I just finished being a part-time officer in Netherlands about 2 years ago, and as part of the state's law enforcement reserve. And I've spent 4 years now on Denver Citizen Oversight Board, public safety oversight for the city and county of Denver. And when I was in the legislature, I was chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, which oversaw criminal justice issues. And I think I get asked to talk about this legally because I'm a practicing attorney, not just play one on TV. I'm an actual real lawyer.
And you're sharp dressed, all of that too.
You know, I got dressed up for you. I was in my gray sweatpants, chilling. So I got dressed up to come out the house. because, you know, I now live on the 16th Street Mall, so,
Yes.
I mean, I try to like look like I belong in the neighborhood,
Yes.
so it's just like, chilling.
Yes, yes.
Oh, I just got what you're saying.
Really? Okay.
We
So there's been 2 trials now already related to the murder, which is officially what it was. It was a murder of Elijah McLean in 2019. 2 officers went together, Rosenblatt and Rodema, and then we just had the last verdict 2 weeks ago or so with, boy, I'm drawing a blank on the dude's name.
That's all right.
And now, coming up in a couple of weeks, we have the trial of the paramedics,
Yeah.
or the EMTs who were involved. I'm not going to go into whether the verdicts were right or not. As I've said in some other places, you know, I predicted that, you know, either all 3 would get convicted or all 3 would be acquitted. Ended up being one officer being convicted, and it's kind of a conundrum. People are upset over it. The way I look at it is that I came up at a time where officers wouldn't even get convicted, wouldn't even be charged for some stuff that happened like that. And so I'm going to take a little victory where I think I can, which is at least there was a law in place that allowed for the Attorney General to go in and have a special counsel to do this. Because you have to remember, in 2019, the then DA out there, George Brockler, refused to actually do anything about this. So, and I was recently asked, so even if they weren't convicted, it's what to say about the criminal justice system. What it says is that the prosecution still has to prove their case.
Yeah.
And for those of us who are people of color, we should want juries to be like that for all of us, where they actually make their prosecution prove their case. And that we not all have to be OJs and can afford Johnny Cochran, but that you can just be the brother or the sister from the street and know that you're gonna get a fair trial. And hopefully this will lead to more equitable trials for folks, so people understand that the criminal justice system is supposed to work a certain type of way. You may not have to agree with it all the time, but it should be due process. Now that's a different question from whether whether the officers had a moral culpability in the death of Elijah McLean. They do. I think all 3 of them are morally guilty. If not legally guilty, they're morally guilty. There's no justification for them stopping Elijah McLean to begin with. Just because someone calls into the police department because, say, someone looks suspicious. They even used the word suspicious in the call. They look shady. Right? They're being sneaky. We're in a hoodie. Oh, I'm not gonna wear a mask in the middle of the summer, but that's not my thing, and I didn't have this condition. And officers should know that you can't act on someone else saying someone looks sneaky or shady. There's a thing in the law called reasonable suspicion, which means that, in layman's terms, it means that the officers have to be able to say reasonably that they think this person has or is about to commit a crime. That's what reasonable suspicion is. So there has to be something more than some kid walking down the street with a face mask on.
Yeah.
There has to be something more than that. And even if there was something more, it doesn't call for the escalation that there was. I mean, these guys, rolled up on Elijah McLean ready to have a fight. Because it escalated within, what did they say, within 60 seconds? 60 seconds or so, they had him on the ground, choking him out within 60 seconds. They did everything that you could do wrong as a police officer. And even as a human being. They did not treat Elijah McLean as a human being. They treated him as an animal. And that's the problem with law enforcement. That's the problem with some in law enforcement. The other problem is that we empower them to do that by being silent.
That's it.
And we become complicit, and other officers become complicit. And there has to be a demand from the community at large that officers do better. There's this guy named Sir Edward Peel, Robert Peel. He's considered the father of modern policing. He reorganized the London Metropolitan Police Department in the 1830s. He created this thing called the Peelian Principles, which all law enforcement agencies still give lip service to. The bedrock principle is law enforcement cannot do their jobs unless they have the trust of the people. Same goes for government.
That's right.
That's why we say other people, by the people, for the people, because people have to consent to the government. At least philosophically, that's the idea. And the same with law enforcement. For law enforcement to be effective, people actually have to trust that law enforcement will do the right thing. Correct. And that everyone gets treated equally and fairly and equitably, all the things that we want. But we see with Elijah McClain, George Floyd, Sandra Bland, and we just keep calling their names out, all instances where law enforcement acted in a reckless manner. They actually acted with a disregard for the basic human dignity and human rights of those people who all died in their custody or while they were trying to be taken into custody. So that's a short version of how I feel about the whole
Yeah, it's
Elijah
deep.
McClain.
Yeah. Yeah. And I appreciate, brother, what you said. And the reason why I asked you is I know your background. And I know that you are and have been in law enforcement. And I think that is important because, as you stated, as we lose the trust, as an elected official, I lose the trust of the people. I ain't serving nobody but myself.
Right.
And that's the same with Denver Police, the same with Aurora Police. Without trust, there is no service. There is no protection. And I think it's important for folks like yourself who have had a career on every level of criminal justice, from the top position on our justice process within the state legislature to being our speaker that leads with that power that executes on the laws we bring forward on criminal justice, to actually being an officer in the streets. So I thought it was important to hear your voice on that topic, and I so appreciate you being here. I wanted to bring it back to Brother Pope to see if there's any final questions or any final comments you want to make for this, our inaugural Barbershop Talk, which I'm hoping to do again in December.
Do we have,
So
wings?
y'all,
Do we have wings next time?
we got,
Some blue Kool-Aid?
we can bring you some. We're not bringing a blue Kool-Aid. We're gonna bring you red.
No, my fraternity colors are blue and white, so we gotta have blue
Red Kool-Aid. Red Kool-Aid.
Tapered.
We're not bringing a blue Kool-Aid. But Brother Pope,
No, this was great, man. I think this was epic. We have to. Nothing happens if we don't push the conversation. And prayerfully, hopefully, we bear fruit out of these conversations with actionable steps to just make progress for the small businesses, for our community, and for the residents that represent City and County of Denver. So it starts with the conversation and less formal settings such as a barbershop, and having the right people in the right room at the right time to push the envelope forward.
well, this is community. This is the right space in the right room. And Mr. Hess, I saw you there with something there. So
Yes, I'm Michael Hess. I'm with the Denver Police Protective Association, and this discussion that we've had has been really good for me to hear. That discussion, we wanted to recognize them here on behalf of the PPA to thank you for your willingness to step into a tough time in our city, to show leadership and to encourage conversation. And you've already started to make a difference down at City Hall. And so the PPA asked that we fly this flag in honor of you, to thank you for your willingness to step up and show leadership at this critical time on behalf of our city. And again, that dialogue is something that you just think naturally would occur, but it's been missing for a while. And so we wanted to reach out to you with this to let you know right from the get-go how much we appreciate all of the changes you're making, your willingness to get down there and get your hands dirty. And again, there have been already with the mayor's budget some things that have affected the police, and you've been there. Again, we don't always expect to agree, but the fact that you're willing to listen and to try to show leadership and bring people from all walks of life together really is something that is, we didn't want to go unrecognized. It's an interesting thing, though, to be here today in front of the speaker. Here I am presenting a Colorado flag in front of one of the real trailblazers for our state, and with your law enforcement background. So things have a kind of a strange way of working out, but we didn't want today to go by without just saying thank you and how excited we are. says here, State of Colorado, House of Representatives, the Colorado state flag was flown over the state capitol of Colorado in recognition of Darrell Watson in honor of his recent election as a member of the Denver City Council, and it was requested by the Denver Police Protective Association.
Wow, thank you, sir. Wow. Didn't expect this.
Thank you so much.
Well, hey. For the first,
High now.
the first barbershop talk, sir, that touched my heart, and
Thank you so
I so
much.
appreciate it, sir, and I appreciate all of you for being here. I mean, this is the real. This is why I ran, to listen, to engage, and to really serve this community. I am nothing but a servant for District 9. You gave me 4 years, and you may give me more if I go again, but I'm only here for 4 years to start, and I want to do all I can to make sure I uplift you and your stories within the work I do. So thank you so much. Thank you, everyone who's going to be viewing. You can learn more about District 9 and the work that we're doing on our website. So go to denvergov.org and just pull up District 9, and you can find out more about what's happening in District 9 and throughout the city. So bless you all. Happy Thanksgiving for folks who celebrate, and I look forward to speaking and seeing you in the streets in the fine District 9.